Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of PowerCore Productions and Podcastings. I'm your host, Javon Harrington, back to hit you with another video. And today we're going to be continuing Naruto Polaris Shippuden, What If Hanabi Hyuga Was Born First, Part 18. But as always, if you're new to the channel or if you're a regular and you like what we have to offer, then please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and hit that bell for post notifications so you can stay up to date on everything that is PowerCore Productions and Podcasting stats to come out now and in the future. First off, I want to say thank you to everyone who has been bearing with us through these technical difficulties as of late, as a lot of equipment had to be replaced, including the phone that I use to primarily make these videos. And since I am switching from an Android to an iPhone, the learning curve is going to be around for a bit. There are some stuff that I can bring with me from the old channel and some stuff that I can't, but we're still trying to figure things out. Roughly, my goal is to get through with what we have left on the channel, our 5 remaining stories, and during my vacation, I'll try to iron out a few of the bugs or anything else so that when we come back in 2023, things will be a lot more smoother going forward. But again, thank you for all of your support and for sticking through some of these trying times. But anyway, we're going to get into today's video, so as always, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. As Sasuke left the village, there would be an uneasy feeling among the Leaf Shinobi. On one hand, the killing of Danzo, a village elder, was something that couldn't easily be overlooked. But yet at the same time, knowing of the treachery and of everything that Danzo had done to lead things to the situation that they were in, there weren't many that could feel sympathy for him. For Kakashi and Jiraiya, they understood the magnitude of what they had learned. Lord Jiraiya, if what has happened here, if we are to believe everything that's true, then what would this mean for our village? I do not know, Kakashi. That is even more difficult. I know that we preach of the will of fire and of putting the village over oneself, but this situation, it's beyond anything I could ever imagine. It must not have been easy on you to have to train the boy. It wasn't, but at the same time, I thought that I could get through to him. But really, I was foolish. How could I ever expect him to feel love for the village that scorned him and his clan, that drove them to where they were? Naruto and Hanabi would also be listening. Hanabi looking over to Naruto. She wondered what he was thinking. Naruto, are you okay? I don't know. I mean, everyone's holding it against Sasuke, treating him like a criminal. But really, I just don't think it's that simple anymore. What do you mean? I mean, it's just the hypocrisy that I hate. If Sasuke does what he does, he's branded as a criminal, as a traitor. But what do we do when the village betrays its own? Everyone was looking to Naruto in that moment. I can't say that I don't disagree with him. I felt the exact same. The village, they treated me so harshly for something that wasn't even my fault. The same with him. It's like you poke a tiger, you poke it in a cage, and you expect it not to react. But if it lashes out and kills its attacker, then the tiger is branded as the aggressor. And I can't say that that's fair. Sure, maybe there could have been a better way of going about things. But look at what Danzo was. Look at just how far he was willing to go to obtain power. Danzo was willing to sink no matter how far, and all for the good of the leaf. But really, it was all just for himself. I agree with you, Naruto, Jiraiya would say. Personally, I was never too fond of him in my younger years. He always gave off the aura of being more important than he actually was. Truthfully, he was a coward in every which word. And now even more so, his actions have brought the ire of Sasuke against the leaf. I do agree. Dealing with Sasuke is not going to be as simple as we might expect. But for now, we have to make other preparations and only hope that things don't get any worse. Everyone in Konoha would prepare for the war in their own ways. As Tsunade would awaken from her coma, she would be alert to everything that happened. When she did the autopsy for Danzo's body, seeing that his right arm was made from the cells of Hashirama Senju, her grandfather, it filled her with a strong sense of rage. Even staring at the corpse, she couldn't help but feel contempt. You are nothing but a power-hungry old man. You could never do the work yourself. You are nothing like my grandfather or my great-uncle or my sensei. You tried to steal power that you couldn't understand for yourself. As the autopsy was complete, Tsunade would be filled in on everything that was going to be taking place. The declaration of war from the masked shinobi known as Madara, and how all 5 villages were going to be cooperating, as this was a war against the world, essentially. There would be a high sense of alert and uneasiness throughout the Hidden Leaf village, as the word of war began to spring around. Many of the younger shinobi wondered what the future held for them, as they didn't think they would see war in their lifetime. Among them, though, was Dosu. Dosu wondered what he was going to do if everything came down to the war. Sure, he had decided to become a member of Konoha, but even still, did he really want to fight a war for it? What kind of question was that? He knew he was going to fight, but even still, he didn't think that it would come to this, that fighting the Akatsuki could really lead to all-out warfare. Although as he found himself walking beside Sakura, he did feel an inkling of wanting to stay. If not for anything, just to keep her annoyingness in check. Or at least that's what he told himself. Naruto, in the meantime, would still be helping with the rebuilding of the village, until he was suddenly reverse summoned back to Mount Miyaboku. It wouldn't take Naruto too long to see that he wasn't the only one there, and that Jiraiya had been reverse summoned as well. They met with Ma and Pa Toad before meeting with the Elder Toad that spoke to Naruto to tell him of a prophecy that he had foreseen. Of course, Naruto wasn't really aware that the Elder Toad could see prophecy until Jiraiya reminded him. Although for even Jiraiya, he wondered what this prophecy could entail. The Elder Toad would tell Naruto to come forward, and the prophecy would be revealed. The prophecy of Naruto being the tool for the world's salvation or its destruction. That, in the era of darkness, the sun and the moon would rise, and guiding them would be a star that's radiance could be reflected off of the sun and of the moon itself, and that it would only be when these 3 celestial bodies emerged that the darkness would be done away with. And there was also the prophecy that in the twilight, Naruto would come face to face with a young man whose power lies in his eyes. While Naruto didn't understand the first part of the prophecy, he understood the second part all too well. A boy that had powers that lies within his eyes, it meant that he was going to find himself in a fight against none other than Sasuke. Although how it would unfold, he had no idea. After this, Naruto and Jiraiya would arrive back in the Hidden Leaf Village. Everyone had been worried when Naruto and Jiraiya disappeared suddenly, although once they explained everything, cooler heads prevailed. Of course, Naruto had a bit of an unease about the prophecy itself. He didn't really want to fight Sasuke. Sure, in terms of keeping his pride and proving his power, he would have wanted to any day of the week. But he had come to realize that fighting Sasuke was going to be a lot more complicated than just throwing a Rasengan at his problems. No, Sasuke wasn't the kind of person that could be fought with by just means of ninjutsu. Sasuke's entire worldview had been warped and changed by events around him. It led him down this dark path. And now more so than ever, his path would lead to the potential destruction of the Hidden Leaf Village. Naruto couldn't allow that, but at the same time, the ire that Sasuke felt for the village was justified. So ultimately, who was in the right and who was in the wrong? Could Sasuke truly be forgiven? Should he be punished? And what about the village itself? Were they going to face reparations? These were all things that swarmed through his mind. But it wasn't just that. There was also Konoha's 3 new prisoners that had been taken in following Sasuke's attack and the subsequent assassination of Danzo. It would be none other than Suigetsu, Jugo, and Karin Uzumaki. With the 3 of them being held in the Konoha prison, it was going to be tough to figure out what to do with them all. First, there was Suigetsu. Suigetsu made it very clear that the only reason he was with Sasuke was more or less because Sasuke was the only one that had freed him from his prison. If he hadn't joined, Sasuke probably would have left him there, and he would have been stuck as one of Orochimaru's test tube experiments until the end of time under some deep laboratory. And he had no inkling of wanting to fight with Konoha or to still be a part of the Akatsuki. After all, that masked guy only took Sasuke and left them all high and dry, even though he had the power to come and rescue them. So it was obvious that in Suigetsu's mind, they were expendable, so there was no reason to be loyal, and he was more than willing to cooperate in any way that Konoha saw fit. Because of this, Suigetsu would be given a pardon. Granted, he would have to be on parole, and he would actually be extradited back to the Hidden Mist Village. After word had been sent, not too long after, Chojuro would arrive along with a few Mist Shinobi to come pick him up. Suigetsu being happy to see a fellow member of the 7 Swordsmen of the Mist. And Chojuro was grateful that Suigetsu would be coming back to the village, as no one had known what happened to him when he disappeared. Suigetsu would then explain that he had been kidnapped by Orochimaru, so it all worked out for him in the end. Of course, with the brink of war, it was going to be all hands on deck, and Suigetsu had no problem fighting for the Mist once again. At the very least, they would have 2 swordsmen, although that still left Kisame out there with Samehada, and the 2 would agree that once this business was taken care of, they could track down Samehada and Kisame together. Next, there was Jugo, the most unstable of the 3. He was prone to violent acts, and he was not easy to hold down and control. Ultimately, though, with the war, they couldn't just allow him to be in the Hidden Leaf, so an emergency escort would be put together, and they would be tasked with taking him to Blood Prison. There he would remain until they could figure out what to do. However, unfortunately for this escort, as they were halfway through their journey, Jugo would transform into his monstrous state and overpower them. Killing a few of the escorts, he would disappear deep into the forest, where he would not be seen for a while. And then finally there was Karin Uzumaki. She was the most practical of everyone here. However, unlike the other 2, Karin had no home, no place to go. Tsunade would ask to speak with her personally, the two having a long conversation, as Tsunade, being half Uzumaki herself, would be able to understand her in a way. The girl gave off a personality much like Kushina's was, although she had a tendency to be a bit more violent than even the red-hot habanero. Of course, there was Naruto, who wanted to meet her next. As he visited her, the two would begin talking. Naruto just wanted to learn more about her, more about the Uzumaki clan. For Karin, she was surprised that there was another Uzumaki around, and one that didn't have red hair. Of course, Naruto wondered why this would be a requisite, until he learned that Uzumakis typically have red hair, although those were pure-blooded Uzumakis, and because of this, he was probably due to the influence of his father. Naruto would assume, since he had hair like his father Minato, the fourth Hokage. For Karin, she would be surprised by this, that someone like the fourth Hokage, the yellow flash of the hidden leaf, actually had a son, and that son was Uzumaki. Although, it did make sense now, as she could sense the malevolence within Naruto. She deduced that that power must have come from the Nine Tails, and Naruto would concur. Of course, for Karin, it didn't surprise in the least, as the Uzumakis were typically the ones that kept the nine-tailed fox in check. At least those were the stories her mother told her. Naruto would then ask just how close a family were they? They obviously weren't siblings, but were they cousins? Close, but Karin would take a guess that they were distant more than anything else. Sure, they might have shared the same blood type, but it wouldn't have been anything too significant, seeing as how the few Uzumaki that remained were pretty much scattered all over the world. There were pockets of them here and there, and chances are they either blended in or married into other families, and so the blood pool was diluted. This wasn't to say that Naruto was wondering for any personal reason, he was just curious. And besides, Karin already knew who her heart was fixed on. This made Naruto ask what she saw in Sasuke. He just wondered, since Sasuke was always prone to having fangirls around, if Karin was one of them. But it was actually different. Karin would explain that the reason why she fell for Sasuke was because she could sense his pain. Uzumakis had great sensory ability, and for her, she could sense Sasuke's, his emotions. Despite the face that he gave off, he was always spiraling on the inside. Whenever he was happy, she could feel it. Whenever he was annoyed, she could feel it. Whenever he was saddened, something she felt the most at late nights, they were hard to ignore. While the boy hardly ever cried, on the inside, it felt as though there were a violent storm of emotions that surged through him. And the more that she had learned about Sasuke, the more she felt like he was a kindred spirit, as she too knew what it was like to grow up in a village that didn't really love or care about you, as she grew up in the hidden grass, where she was used by everyone for her healing abilities and nothing more. Outside of that, they treated her like dirt, and Naruto echoed that sentiment all too well. But even further, as Naruto asked why Karin would go so far, she explained that, in her eyes, Sasuke, even if his methods were extreme, he were justified in them. Ultimately, Karin couldn't really see the benefit of being loyal to a village that will just as easily use and discard you. Of course, Naruto wanted to rebuttal. After all, he had dreams of being Hokage, but even he could see how messed up the ninja system was. They lived in a world where it was always about loyalty to the village, being for the village, of dying for your village. That was the only thing that mattered. And yet the village, they could just as easily kill you off or discard you when you were of no benefit or use. the preserving of the village was kept high above everything else. And while Naruto had love for the Hidden Leaf, he couldn't say he loved all of their practices, and so he kind of understood. It was hard to love a place that didn't love you back. Of course, though, there was another thing that Naruto wanted to know. If Karin knew anything about the Uzumaki in general, techniques or abilities. He never had known either of his parents, so he didn't really get the chance. Karin would explain that there were a few things she had learned from her mother, a few sealing techniques, but her primary ability besides sensory was her ability to use the Adamite chakra chains. They were a rare ability among even the Uzumaki clan, and Karin figured that Naruto would have the capabilities to use them. The reason being is that if his lineage was of that of those who kept the Nine Tails sealed, all the users of the ability were known to have sealed away the Nine Tails in themselves. So if Naruto had the capability of sealing in the Nine Tails, then he could have the capability of using the chains if he were taught properly. And that's when Naruto asked if she would be willing to teach him. He wanted to know more about his clan, to more about his heritage, and he felt this was an opportunity for him to do so. Feeling his warmness of chakra and his good intentions, Karin would agree. She wanted to learn more from Naruto as well. After all, there weren't that many Uzumaki out there in the world, so they had to stick together. Of course, there was the matter of Karin's punishment and what she would have to face for being a part of Sasuke's attack team on the Hidden Leaf. However, as Tsunade had learned more about Danzo and of his treachery, she felt that there were some things she could overlook. She held up a paper that had Karin's name as well as the appropriate punishment. Then she ripped up the paper, saying that under the stress of preparing for a whole Fourth Great Ninja War, some stuff was going to get lost in translation. As long as Karin was willing to serve a probation and was willing to work with the Hidden Leaf and serve, then she had no problem with the girl staying. And for Karin, seeing as how this might be her only way to get back to Sasuke, she agreed. And thus Karin would join the ranks of the Hidden Leaf Shinobi. In other news, the Kages would meet once again, speaking of what to do with their current Jinchurikis, the 8 and 9 Tails. While Naruto was a lot more capable and had proven to be a valuable shinobi in terms of battle, it was still too dangerous to keep him on the front lines, especially knowing that the war was centered around protecting him and the Nine Tails from keeping them out of the grasp of the Akatsuki. Because of this, it would be agreed upon that the 8 and 9 Tails would be hidden away on Turtle Island. But there was also another part of this agreement. As Tsunade had learned that the 8 Tails was a perfect Jinchuriki, she would ask the Raikage if it were at all possible for Naruto to train under him. Of course, the Raikage would remark that it would be like helping out an enemy, since when the war was over, and the Hidden Cloud and Hidden Leaf would be the only ones with Jinchurikis left, it would almost be like aiding a potential rival. However, the Raikage would agree, as the words that Naruto said at the 5 Kage Summit still rung out to him. Even though he didn't like it, and heck, he wanted to punch that kid, he had the guts to stand up to him and to call him out. And even more so, while the Raikage would never say this out loud, even he could recognize where he was wrong. They were all wrong. Because of how the world had been run up until now, they had let things get this bad. It wasn't until his brother had potentially been taken that he even decided to do anything against the Akatsuki. And from everyone else's experience, it was obvious that they all bore some responsibility for the situation they were in. In the meantime, Naruto would be told the news. At first, he didn't like it very much. The idea that everyone else was going to be fighting in the war while he had to sit on the sidelines. However, Jiraiya would try to speak sense into him, assuring him that this was for the greater good, that it was easier than keeping Naruto close to the enemy, that he could be taken. Everyone was putting their lives on their line to protect Naruto, and this wasn't because they thought he was weak, but it was because they wanted to protect him. Hanabi would be the final one to convince Naruto to go off, and that she promised that the war wouldn't last too long and they wouldn't be kept apart. Of course, Naruto didn't want to be, but at the same time, he knew that this was for the best. And when he learned that he would be getting special training on the island, he looked forward to that as well. Although Naruto had one caveat: if he was going, someone had to come with him. He would then point out to Karin. She had promised that she would train him in a few Uzumaki techniques, and he felt that since he was going to be training off anyway, this would be the best time to learn them. Tsunade would agree, thinking that this would be the best way to work things out for everyone. After all, Karin wasn't completely familiar with Konoha's system and structure, so she couldn't really be put into a platoon or anything like that. Although her sensory skills would be great, they had more than enough sensory ninja to make up for whatever they would lose in not having her. And this would be a good way for her and Naruto to bond, and discover more about their family and their heritage. As Naruto prepared to say his goodbyes, everyone in the village would look to see him off, primarily being his closest friends, the Konoha 12, even Dosu. Make sure you keep the apartment in one piece while I'm gone. You don't have to worry about it. After all, I'm not like you, so I'm not gonna leave ramen cups everywhere for roaches to get inside. Hey man, you don't have to... I'm just kidding. Now get on so we can get this stupid war over with. As Naruto prepared to leave, Hanabi would be the last one to see him off. The two weren't sure of what they were going to say. After all, there was no telling how long this war would be, or how dangerous it would be. But Naruto wasn't too concerned. He knew that everyone would be fine. He just hated leaving them like this. However, Hanabi would grab his hand. Don't worry, we'll be okay. I promise this war is going to be over before you know it, and you'll be back home. Thanks, Hanabi. I'm counting on all of you. I just wish that I could do more. You've done more than enough. Just go train and get as strong as you can. We'll have everything under control. Naruto would give her a hug as he said his goodbyes to everyone, as Yamato and the escort team with Karin would all make their way over to Turtle Island. In the meanwhile, the shinobi, clad in the Akatsuki robes, wearing an orange mask, would be stopped by Kabuto. So, you're the one that's got the whole world in an uproar. Kabuto. Are you looking for a fight? Oh, on the contraire, I come with glad tidings. I think you and I could work well together. And I have something I'd like to offer you. Madara would follow Kabuto underground as he was revealed a rather massive army. I think over 180,000 should do. But that's not all. Kabuto would raise his hands together, and instantly from the ground multiple coffins would arise. Within them, the dead members of the Akatsuki. So, you've even learned the reanimation. And all of this because you want the help? But of course. And what if I refuse? I thought you might say that. Another coffin would arise. As the masked man looked inside, even with only his eyes and expression, a cold bead of sweat would fall under the mask. I see. So you even managed to obtain him. Well, I had my suspicions. You can never be too careful. You won't be doing this for free, I imagine. So what do you want in exchange? I simply want an Uchiha to continue my research. So you're after Sasuke. Precisely. Very well then. You help me win this war. And when it's over, Sasuke will be yours. But not a minute before. Understand? Oh yes, I understand completely. The masked Madara would leave as Kabuto began the preparations. The two sides mounting their forces, as off in the horizon, the dawn of the Fourth Great Shinobi War would soon be underway, and the world would be engulfed in the flames of battle. As Naruto and his team arrived to Turtle Island, where Naruto would meet his master and Killer Bee, the next leg of his training would begin. The training to master the power within him and the power of a clan long forgotten. In that time, as the sun would rise and set, the stage for the Fourth Great Shinobi War would come into view, and the fate of the world would depend on its outcome. This concludes Naruto Polaris Shippuden. What if Hanabi Hyuga was born first? Part 18. As always, if you enjoyed today's video and everything else that we have to offer, then please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and hit that bell for post notifications so you can stay up to date on everything that is PowerCore Productions and Podcastings that's to come out now and in the future. Stay tuned for tomorrow's video as we continue Naruto, Tale of Two Sages. What if Naruto was Luis's familiar? Part 15. But anyway, that's going to do it for the end of today's video. I'm Javon Harrington with PowerCore Productions and Podcastings. Signing off, and I'll see you next time.